Oh. Hello to everybody. You know, I forgot what today's class is. I think it's the level 1 breath class, isn't it? No. Which one is it?
Today is practice.
Oh, today's practice. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Super. Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, today's practice with some movement, because we just rearranged the schedule. So, let's start seated. I'm just going to grab this little stool here. Right there. Great.
I won't last a long time seated. I just had an hour-and-a-half meditation in class seated. So I'll just get up when I need to.
You can start in any position you want. For the breathing class, you can be supine. For the breathing breathing portion, you can be seated supine, or you can be standing. Whatever you wish. In fact, you could do all three. But maybe since, I don't know, tell me what you guys want, since all of you are kind of veterans, we could, tell me what you're in for. We could spend the whole time on different movement aspects, or we could start with just a breathing practice. What's the vote? Unmute yourselves and tell me.
I vote for movement.
The whole time? Does everybody vote for movement the whole time?
Not just me.
Let's I think you nodded too. What do you feel, Talit? It's okay, I mean, because we can do a little bit breath and then go to movement. I mean, it's all breath, but
a little bit of both sounds good to me. But
okay. So let's just sink in real quick into it, and then we'll talk about different movement things. So whatever position you want to be in right now, assume that position. If it's seated, make sure you're on the transition point between, well, let's say if you're supine, make sure that you are lying with something enough height underneath your knees so that you can have your low back flat on the floor. And if you're seated, make sure you're on the transition point between the front and the back of your sit bones. And if you are standing, make sure that you have the same relationship between your pelvis and your spine as you would if you were seated on the transition point between the front and the back of the sit bones. And today, I think movement-wise, we'll look at how to go from one position to another, smooth and softly, okay? So let's begin by breathing from the bottom of the pelvis up to the top of the chest and emptying ourselves from the top of the chest down to the bottom of the pelvis. Remembering that the most important instruction when you're practicing breathing is to let it be as easy as possible. To let it be relaxed. To let it be softly expansive. Almost as if we're not doing any work ourselves, as if we're allowing the universe to work through us. And let's bring our mind to the borders of the diaphragm, where we know it's attached to the bottom of the sternum, the bottom of the ribs, the transverse processes of L2, and the front of the lumbar spine. Let's notice the sensations we have as we inhale and exhale. And let's see if we can detect, see if you can detect any tendency to want to push the breath up the spine or push the breath from the back of the body to the front of the body. See if you have any tendency to want to rush that wave, to get some satisfaction of breathing from somewhere further along the process than we're actually at. Remember, a couple clues for pushing the breath is if we hear turbulence in our airways, if we hear the air rushing around. The more we practice breathing, the more the flow of air in and out of the body can be soft and silent and smooth. So if you hear turbulence, it gives you a clue that you're trying to push the wave of contraction through the diaphragm faster than it wants to go. And if you detect any tendency to want to do that, or even if you don't, see if you can back off. See if you can allow the breath to move through at its own pace. And you'd think this would be the easiest thing in the world to do. But we're so used to pushing. We're so used to trying to go get something. We're so used to not being satisfied with the situation just as it is right now. Maybe this doesn't apply to you. Maybe it does. But I think so many of us are so used to pushing for something beyond where we're at right now that this little practice of trying not to be the person in command of the breath wave can be interestingly elusive. If it's not, that's wonderful. If it is, don't worry so much. But just appreciate and celebrate every time you're able to let go of trying to make it happen. Because those moments are so open and spacious and lovely. Those moments where we stop trying so hard. And when we can really allow the breath to move through, we feel immediate satisfaction wherever we are in the breath cycle. So feel the wave come up the spine. Feel it spread out at L1. Feel the 2 beads of breath roll around the bottom of the rib cage and meet at the sternum while the wave of contraction moves from the back of the diaphragm to the front of the diaphragm, fully recruiting all of the fibers available to participate in your breath. The tongue is on the roof of the mouth. Remember, we're going to swallow. We're going to let a point of greatest contact, of greatest pressure, sweep from the tip of the tongue to the back of the throat. From the tip of the tongue at the front of the palate to the back of the tongue at the back of the throat. Feel that wave move, and what we're going to do now is we're going to take a big breath in. And as we exhale, we're going to relax deeply. We're going to relax every fiber we contracted. And when we get to the bottom of that exhale, we're going to swallow from the front to the back. And when the wave hits the back of the throat, we're going to inhale with our suction seal in place and feel all of the diaphragms in the head come into an integrated, cooperative, surrendered experience of motion, drawing in on inhalation and puffing back out on exhalation. So when you're ready, when you finish that exhale, swallow and inhale when the wave hits the back of the throat. Bottom to top, top to bottom. Feeling the pull at the front of the throat and under the chin, and feeling how that recruits the floor of the mouth, which pulls the tongue back and down, which recruits the palate, which recruits the roof of the nasal cavity. Feel the cheeks, the eardrums, the temples, the eyeballs. Feel all those diaphragms come online. Feel how this draws the breath right up into the head, and as you exhale, feel that exhale moving down through the body, like your body was a container with a skeleton in it filled with water, and the water is being drained out the bottom, so you can feel the water level dropping as it falls down alongside the bones, all the way down to the floor of the pelvis. Feel how as the breath travels down through the abdomen, you feel a sense of drawing, lifting your organs up towards your head. And the more you relax with each exhalation, the more you feel that breath diving below the navel, all the way to the pelvic floor. And as that wave touches the floor of the pelvis, it lifts the pelvic floor. And feel how the dropping of your pelvic floor by itself fills your pelvis with breath, almost in one fell swoop. And that filling the pelvis with breath changes the angle of your sacrum and allows the breath wave to continue on from L4 right up the spine, where it starts to spread out at L1, travel around the borders of the diaphragm. Feel it travel alongside the sides of the ribs, around to the front of the body as the wave of contraction matures at the tissue's chosen speed. And before we actually start to move our arms and legs, let's see if we can perceive that even without doing any contraction in the arms and legs, we can feel the arms and legs growing in length and girth as we inhale and exhale. We can feel the subtle motion in the armpits, the elbows, the palms, the thigh pits, the back of the knees, and the feet. And as we do this, we're going to take a Fortes moment here and really just immerse yourself in letting yourself feel how even without starting any motion in the arms and legs, we can still feel pressure gradient change in all of the peripheral diaphragms. So I'm going to give you a Fortes moment here. And now, let's go ahead and add arms and legs. If you're seated or standing in this moment, let's go ahead and go to supine, because we're going to learn, do I fit? We're going to learn how to get up from the ground. So let's go to supine and let's start engaging arms and legs. On the inhalation, we're going to lift the toes. We're going to squeeze all the muscles of the lower extremities in a wave-like fashion from the bottom to the top, squeezing all the muscles of the lower extremities from the toes, by lifting the toes, lifting and spreading the toes, flexing the feet, squeezing the calves, the front and the back of the legs, the sides of the legs, the inner thigh. We're going to squeeze everything right up to the butt cheeks as we inhale, and when we exhale, we're going to let everything go. And now let's go ahead and add the arms. When we inhale, what we're going to do while we're lifting the toes and flexing at the ankles and squeezing all the muscles of the lower extremities, we will simultaneously be spreading the palms, fingers, Squeezing all the muscles of the upper extremities, every muscle that you have, the same amount of squeeze from the top, bottom to the top. So from the fingers up to the armpits, and squeeze every muscle on inhalation. And then when you exhale, you're going to let everything go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to alternate sides. We're going to do the right side, then we're going to do the left side. So arm and leg on the right, arm and leg on the left. Noticing that every time we engage one side of the body, as we inhale, that side of the body grows in length and girth. Every time we exhale, that same side of the body will collapse and contract. Now we're going to look at getting up. So I want to look at how I can get up with the least amount of effort possible. And I know some of you have done this before, but not everybody has. So if you can turn your head to see me, that would be swell. If you can turn your head to see me, that would be swell. So what I'm going to do, because I'm noticing that my body grows in length when I inhale and it shrinks back down. That little bit of motion is like the difference between coming to a full stop at a stop sign or a stop light and being able to roll through that stop sign or stop light at a very low speed. Okay? That's what that little bit of motion gives you. It makes it so you don't have to start from a full stop. Because remember, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. So if we have motion that is simply the tidal backswing of our exhale, we can use that to overcome that initial tendency to of a body at rest to stay at rest. We can overcome the inertia of that moment with great ease. So what we're going to do is I'll describe this for you first, and I can even go through it as I describe it. So I'm going to inhale on the left side of my body. I'm going to fill up the left side of my body. I'm going to make it longer and fatter. And when I do this, I know it's like I'm blowing air into a balloon. It is creating what's called potential energy. If I blow air into a balloon and fill it up with pressure, it won't take any work for me to let that balloon open up and let all of that pressure leak back out. In this case, I'm going to fill up my left side with pressure, and as it's emptying out, I'm going to let that emptiness draw my leg up toward my head. And as I exhale, I'm going to attach my exhalation to the top of my hip bone. And as I empty from the top to the bottom, I'm going to let the pressure come down and draw my leg up. in the most relaxed fashion I can. As my knee comes up, you see the weight of my knee starts turning me over to the side without me having to do very much of anything to make it go there. And then if I inhale, it will take me all the way onto my side without me having to do much work at all. Then I'm going to exhale and let that draw my other leg up underneath me with the exhale, keeping the whole system evenly engaged the whole time. When I get to the bottom of that exhale, I'll put a hand on the floor, and then when I'm ready to inhale, I'm going to stretch out this top leg and inhale at the same time. And I let the weight of my leg be what lifts my body up. Do you guys want to see that? You want me to do that? I'll do that again. Because it's a little bit of a complicated maneuver, getting up, and I don't know if I have the best light there either. This is probably better like that. There we go. So let me show you this again with some better light. So I'm going to fill up the left side. It could be the right side too. It doesn't matter, whichever side you want. I'm going to inhale. I'm going to fill up this side, lifting my toes, spreading my fingers, squeezing all the muscles, including the inner thighs and the lat back here. And then when I let that and that's going to elongate me. That's going to elongate me. And this is like loading a spring, right? Because as soon as I let that pressure out, it's going to bring me back this way. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that my body is already moving this way and use that to just keep, and then I'm just going to keep this leg in motion coming up. So let me do that again. I'm going to inhale on the left. And as I empty all the way down, eventually the emptiness will start to pull my leg up. And my leg will come up. And you see how it's leaning over a little to the side? I'm kind of letting it collapse to the inside. Now the weight of my leg starts to turn me. And I can do this all on an inhale, but on an exhale. But if I get stuck, all I have to do is inhale and reach at a 45-degree angle. And the breath turns me over. Let's just try that part and let me see how you do, bringing the leg up. I know this is a complicated maneuver. Let me unmute you all so if there's questions, we can discuss it. Let's see. See if you can feel how, as you exhale, you can kind of party favor your leg back into the center of your abdomen. That looks good, Talik. You should really feel like it's the emptiness sucking your leg up towards your torso. And the more you let that leg lean into the midline, let me see if I can do this from a center position as well. Maybe I'll bring this down here. This is a really important skill to have, because if your back is injured, sometimes just turning over in bed can be excruciatingly painful. And changing positions from lying down to seated to standing can be very difficult if you have a lot of back pain. But if you learn how to move in this smooth and contiguously engaged fashion, you won't get any yanking on your connective tissue. You won't get any yanking on your bones or any other part of your body. Let me see, I'll do it from here too. So I'll do it on the right from this angle. As I'm exhaling, I'm letting my leg get drawn up. And you see that I'm letting it lean inside so that when it gets to a certain point, kind of at hip level, it's already starting to turn me over because the weight of my knee is drawing me over. I didn't really have to do anything to flop to the side like that. All I had to do was bring my knee toward my head in the easiest way I could imagine. Let's see. So, see how I'm leaning in? I bring the foot from here. And you may even want to think that you're going to empty the inner thigh of the leg that you're bringing up more than the other places. You're going to empty this inner leg line right up into your pelvis, and it's going to draw your knee up and to the side. And when it gets to a certain point, the weight of it starts to turn your hips until you find yourself lying on your side. So let's take a big breath lying on our side. Fill the whole body up, and when we exhale, let that exhale draw the other knee up to the chest. Then I'll take my hand, place it on the floor, and as I extend my foot out like this, I'm going to inhale. And then I'm going to just hang on to it with my body, so that the weight of my leg kind of cantilevers me up, smooth and with the least amount of effort I can. Tell me how that helps you guys. Tell me how that was. Did you feel like you could use your breath to move you through?
Pretty good with a little bit of back grabbing.
A little bit of back grabbing? Where did you have it?
In my usual right bottom of the thoracic rib area where I'm assuming I'm injured there. But relaxing more, and the cue to empty the inner thigh was helpful.
Okay.
And to figure out how to let my arm moving with the leg that's moving also bring the weight.
Yeah, that's very important. If you think that you're emptying that side out more, just think that you're emptying that side and this arm is kind of collapsing in. Is that what you've settled on? I should have mentioned. Yeah.
And then the sit up good.
Go ahead, say again.
And the last part was very good. I'm accustomed to the hand on the floor, and the lengthening of the leg as the lever is a little different than keeping the legs together. And that felt great.
Yeah, that makes that part very easy.
Yep.
Yeah, emptying the inner thigh, I think is key. And also use that emptiness on that side to draw your arm in, because if you do leave it out there, it kind of leaves part of you behind, right? And part of the key to moving with your diaphragms is that you want the body to work as a unit, right? So you want it to be engaged with itself. You don't want to leave one part behind, right? So that's an important point you bring up, Janet. Okay, now let's. What's that?
Talit's dog has it.
He's a pro.
Yeah.
What a cutie. What a cutie.
Thank you.
My dog's in trouble.
Oops.
My dog's in trouble. He was off eating a deer carcass today, making me late. So mad at him.
Bad dog.
Well, can't even talk to him right now. All right. So it's the worst when you have to yell and yell for your dog, and they're just, and you know they can hear you. Terrible. So let's look at some more movements since we're down here on the ground, let's go to kind of at this sort of tabletop position. Let's go to this one. We haven't done this in a while. Now, you don't have to go to this position yet. Let's have you watch for a second, okay, so that we can go through it. So the same idea, the idea that we've been using about having a water level that comes up and goes down as we inhale and exhale, that's already happening. That tidal motion is happening. I've heard it's like 30,000 times a day, right? And the thing is, if we're breathing well, that means our entire body is expanding and our entire body is collapsing. If we're using all of our diaphragms, and why not? Why not use them? Because we have them, so we might as well use them. So at that little bit, and we get the most effective and easiest breath when we do, and when we allow them to all participate. So since that movement is happening all the time anyway, we might as well take advantage of the fact that we never really have to start from a stationary position. We never really have to start from a dead stop at that red light. We can always have just that little bit of motion going in or that little bit of motion going out, having a pretty profound effect on the ease and integrity of our movement. If I just try to sit up, from a dead stop like this, I want you to notice the moment, I want you to notice that there's going to be a moment right as I start to sit up where my connective tissue, where the slack comes out of my connective tissue before my muscles are truly engaged with each other. Did you see the place where there's like a little lag and a jerk and a yank? We don't ever have to do that. Ever. We can just not do that anymore. We've done it enough. We've all done enough of that in our lives. Because that's just causing little micro trauma to our connective tissue every time we yank on it like that. And it's just not necessary. So part of what we want to do with these movement classes is get used to perceiving that little subtle motion of expansion and collapse. And I don't want to say capitalizing on it. What do I want to say? I want to say we want to go with that flow. Thank you, Fortes. We want to go with that flow because it'll take us where we need to go without having to yank ourselves around. We will maintain a continuous engagement in our musculature that allows all of the strain, the potential strain to be distributed amongst all of the connective tissue and all of the muscle and all of the bone so that we don't injure any vulnerable part of us. So when I'm doing this is a very familiar position, very familiar posture, yogic practice to most people. And the way that we've always learned it is like this. We learn to exhale and then inhale. And exhale and then inhale. Which is fine. That's okay to do that. But what we're going to try to do differently now is we want to start to let the pressure be what moves us. So we're going to inhale, and I'm going to press my hands into the floor. I'm going to spread my palms and my fingers. I'm going to squeeze all the muscles of my lower extremity, and I am going to pressurize my system. Then as I empty, I'm going to let the water level drop down through through my cranium, and now through my neck, and now through my thoracic cavity, and now all the way down to the floor of my pelvis. When I feel my pelvic floor lift, I'm going to inhale and go deeper. I guess I should have said inhale and go higher. And then as I exhale, I let the emptying of the back of my body be what brings me back to neutral. And then I'm going to empty on the back side of my body from the top of my head through my cranium, neck, etc. And then when I get to empty, I'm going to fill up the front of my body to go further. I empty the front of my body, it brings me back to neutral, and then I start from neutral, emptying the front of my body through my cranium, my neck, my thoracic cavity, thoracic spine, lumbar spine, and then I inhale to lift up higher. And remember, it's the decompression of the back of my body that brings me back to neutral. Then emptying the back again. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to come over here and talk you through it. Does it make sense what we're talking about? So instead of just exhale, inhale, we're going to pressurize. We're going to start to empty the back. As we empty the back, the body will curl around the back. And when we get as empty as we can be, we'll fill the front. That will bring the belly down and lift the head and hips up higher. Then when we let that pressure out of the front, it brings us back to neutral. If we start to empty, we will curl around the emptiness. And when we get all the way empty, we're going to inhale through here, and it will lift us up higher. Okay? Let's try. Hands and knees. Ready? So pressurize the whole system. Pressurize the whole system. Pressurize the whole system. Make sure that you're not hyperextending any of your joints, especially don't hyperextend those elbows. This is a really easy posture to hyperextend your elbows in. So pressurize your whole system, and now as you exhale, we're going to empty the front of the body, and you're going to feel that the head will fall down as you empty the front of the cranium. And then you're going to keep emptying the front of the neck, and then the front of the thoracic spine, and then the front of the lumbar spine, the front of the sacrum, all the way down to the pelvic floor. When you're all the way empty, inhale, fill up the back of your body like it's a parachute opening and lifting your back up. So David, if you are able to turn sideways, it'll make it much easier for me to see what's going on. That's nice. Perfect. Okay, good. And now, Janet, go ahead and start emptying the back of your head and cranium. There you go. Empty the back of your head and feel how emptying the back of your head lifts your head up. Empty the back of your neck, the back of your thoracic cavity. Let it be the emptying that causes the extension to happen all the way down the spine, all the way through the lumbar spine, all the way through the sacrum and tail. When you're all the way at the end of that exhale rather, inhale, let it take you a little further. Be happy with wherever the breath takes you, and then let the emptying of that added pressure bring you back to neutral so that you can start again from the top of the head. You want to start all together? Yes, go ahead, David. What is it?
Like at the last part of it, when I'm like in sort of like the hump part,
Uh-huh,
and I've emptied the front.
uh-huh.
When I fill the rear, I would start that fill from from the space, the pelvic area, not my head.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Let the
that's what
let the
seems
filling
natural.
let the filling come up. It can even come up from the feet, up the back of the body.
Okay, gotcha.
I may have to move to standing. My wrist won't tolerate too much
Okay,
more.
we'll do a couple. You can go ahead and move. Actually, Janet, if you want to do this from standing, also can be done from standing.
Yep.
Do you understand what we're doing, Talit? Are you good?
I'm a little confused. This is the first time I'm trying this, and I'm so used to just doing it the yoga way that I'm having a hard time switching to.
Sure, that makes sense. So I'll explain it from a standing position, and see if you can, and then I'll come back to you and we'll apply it to the other. So Janet, if you want to do this from standing, you can just kind of have this little posture here. I would say it might be best to turn your palms in like that and just rest them on your legs. And then we'll do the same thing. I'll pressurize my whole system. Now I'm emptying down the front of my body so my body curls around the emptiness. Thoracic spine, lumbar spine. When I get all the way to the bottom of my pelvis, I'm going to fill up my back and let that increase the curving of my spine. I let that pressure out and I come back to neutral. And then I can empty the back of my head, back of my neck, back of my thoracic spine, back of my lumbar spine, back of my sacrum, tail, then I'll fill the front. You got that, Janet?
Yep.
Okay, good. Keep working with it that way. So Talit, what we're trying to do is we're trying to use the little added pressure to take care of your end range of motion. Because not only will it give you more support in the end range of motion, but it will actually hold you and pull you back to neutral as you let the pressure out. And it will pull you back safe and sound, okay? Without putting a lot of jerking on your connective tissue. So go ahead and do you, oh wait, can you see my pointer? Can you see my little pointer here? No?
No, I don't think so.
That's too bad. I was going to point at David. Okay, never mind. So go ahead and get your tabletop position. I was going to make David be that front row girl. So I'll talk you through it. So you're going to pressurize your whole system. Squeeze all the muscles of your body gently, super gently. Fill the whole body. And then as you exhale, feel the water level drop down through your cranium. You can do this in a chair too, Janet. Feel that pressure drop down through your cranium. Right, and you're just let your body ride that pressure, that pressure drop all the way through the thoracic cavity now, all the way through the lumbar cavity. And now when you inhale, you're going to fill up the back of your body and let that bring the arch up higher. Fill it up to lift it up higher. And then when you let that pressure out, it's going to bring you right back to neutral. On the pressure, that's beautiful. Now that you're neutral, empty the top and back of your head and feel the water level now dropping along the back of your spine. And as it drops through your cranium, it lifts your head up for you. It lifts your neck up for you. It starts to extend your thoracic spine all the way down, one segment at a time, all the way down. And then it will go into the lumbar spine, the sacrum and coccyx. And when you inhale, let that fill the front of your body and let that kind of make that that arching happen, let that accentuate the arching. And it will actually hold you in the end range of motion for as long as you want to use that breath. When you exhale, it brings you back to neutral. So our next one after we do this, it looks like everybody got this one. Now that's nice, David. That's nice. You got that, Talita? It looks like you got it. Can you feel how you can let the breath move you?
Yeah.
Yes. And then you can start thinking about how we'll teach rowers how to do this so that they stop yanking on their connective tissue. All right. So now the next thing we're going to do, so we've done, so this is a flexion extension. Let's do a little side bending, okay? Let's do a little side bending. And we can do this from standing. Let's do this side bending from standing. So, or sitting. It's okay if you want to do this in a chair too. Perfectly okay. If this is the first time you're doing it, Salit, you might want to do it from a chair. You might want to have your chair right there and plop yourself in it. All we're trying to do is learn how to fill one side of the body more dramatically than the other side and use that to glide our body into positions rather than yanking it into position. So if I'm to do this in a chair, I will again pressurize my whole system. And I'm going to start with the right arm. I'm going to empty the thumb side of my arm, and I want to feel the emptiness come down through my arm into the top of my shoulder. And when I get, let's say I get to a place where I feel like my shoulder might start to lift up, then I'm going to inhale, spread my fingers. Let that wave of contraction mature at its own speed as you come through. But what you should get the sense of, you should feel like you're a party favor that's filling up and extending. And when you exhale, it rolls back up into your own center. So when you're ready, fill that up, Janet, and let it take you higher, and then ride it back down. And now we're going to pressurize, and I'm going to let the pressure out of the left arm, up the thumb side of the arm. So I'm going to let the pressure come up here, and as I let the pressure out of the top of my arm, it makes my arm light. The more I go into this exhale into the top of my shoulder, the more my arm will come up without my shoulder lifting. When I get to the place where I feel restriction, I'm going to inhale. And this should make you feel like there's a whole line of sensation filling up one side of the body and then the other side of the body. And then while we're in the middle, I start to empty on the left, on the right, and it lifts my arm up again. When I get to the place where there's restriction, I'm going to inhale. As I let the pressure out, my arm comes down on the emptying pressure. I don't really have to work so much to lower it. I'm about halfway through my exhalation when I get here, and then I'm going to start to empty here. That was my inhale. So you inhale here to lead. Spread the fingers, squeeze every muscle. Let the breath fill that is to the left side of your body. Good. And then swap over. That's good. Does everybody feel that? You got that, Janet? Is that question?
Maybe one more time.
Let's do it again. Pressurize the whole system. I'm going to empty the thumb side of the arm, emptying it, emptying it, emptying it, emptying it right up into the top of my shoulder so that my shoulder, my arm can roll underneath my shoulder because there's no pressure under there. When I get to the place where I feel restriction, I'm going to inhale here. And let the breath make my arm spiral out. God, my arm looks really long on that screen. And then as I empty, I let the breath, I almost let my feel like the water level is dropping all around me and my arm is simply rising, is simply falling on a dropping water level. And then I do the other side. That was all one exhale. Then I'm going to inhale to go further.
The lift is all on one exhale?
This lift is all an inhale. But this lowering is an exhale. It's almost like I'm in a pool, and as the water level drops, my arm drops down along the side of me. So I'm still emptying here. I'm still emptying, 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 I'm gonna fill. Now I'm emptying, emptying, this is all an exhale, and I exhale right through the neutral position. I'm gonna keep exhaling, but once I get all the way out here, I'm gonna start exhaling at the bottom on this, at the top on this side to lift up my arm. Then I fill again. You should be feeling that more breath is passing through the nostril that's on the side of the body that's engaging. Okay? So you should be exhaling here to lead, and right about here, you're going to inhale. And let that lift and move your arm for you. There you go. Inhale, fill the whole thing up like you're a balloon. You are a balloon. All right, we're going to do one more thing here today. One more thing. Are you ready? And I think we'll just do this one. We're going to do this one with the neck because we're going to do a little twist. So we did our flexion extension on the ground. We did our side bending with the whole body, but we're just going to do the rotation with the neck. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pressurize my whole body. And as the water level drops down, I notice that there is a slight pull of my head to rotate into it. There's always a draw into the emptiness. If I let my body go with that draw, it will do most of the work for me. Then I fill over here. As I fill that side, it pushes my head further. And then as I let that pressure out, it brings my head back to the center. Once I'm back at the center, I'm going to start to let the water level drop down on the other side from the top to the bottom. Let my body move into the emptiness. And then when I get all the way empty, I'll fill on the opposite side. I went to see a chiropractor, and he told me that I have way more ability to rotate than I'm supposed to. Not because I'm hypermobile, but because I'm getting the rest of that rotation, not in my connective tissue, but from this pressure change that actually supports and makes my head very strong in that position. I think we've all done that. You've done that one before, right, Janet? David, you've done everything. Do you want to try that, Talit, before we have some, see if there's any last questions? Go ahead. So, all right, we'll all do it together. Ready? I actually, I'm not going to do it with you. I'm just going to talk to you. I wish my little pointer worked because I would point at you guys with it. There's got to be a way to make that work. So pressurize your whole system. You can be seated, you can be standing for this. You can even be lying down, but you probably want to have your head on some like little piece of fabric on a wood floor so it moves easily. So pressurize the whole system, and as you start to let the water level drop down on one side, as you relax, yes, there you go, Talit. You're going to let your head get drawn into the emptiness. And even though you're only turning your neck, you're going to let that emptiness go all the way to the floor of the pelvis. And notice that as you let it go to the floor of the pelvis, it gives you probably another couple centimeters of range of motion. When you're all the way to the floor of the pelvis, fill up the other side, arm and leg, party favor your head deeper into the position. And then let that pressure out and notice how your head your head will return to the center line pretty much effortlessly. When you get to the midline, you're going to start emptying the other side of your body from the top to the bottom. As you feel that water level drop through your cranium, notice that the bones in your cranium, your brain itself, your eyeballs, all of your diaphragms start to turn and move into the emptiness. Basically by themselves, most of your motions can be propelled by emptiness. I love that. It's so beautiful, isn't it, Janet? All of the things that they say were true are actually true. That's nice, Talit. It looks like you picked it right up. That's beautiful. Let me say that every yoga posture, every work activity, every exercise, every jujitsu submission, everything can be propelled by your breath. That's really good news. Want to testify? All right. Any questions for today? So these principles work everywhere in the body, right? If I want to bend my finger, what do I have to do? I have to empty this part of my finger so that my bones can move toward each other. If I don't let the pressure out here, I've got a golf ball in this door hinge. Doors don't close well when they have a golf ball in the door hinge. So you have to let it empty. Then it will draw my finger down. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions right now? All right. Guys, thank you for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You.
Bye-bye.
I
Bye.